Hello, everybody, and welcome to Put That On My List, the show where the guest comes in and with the movie and asks us the questions. I'm Trey Jones.
And I'm Spencer Lane.
And today, you might notice we don't actually have a guest, so we're changing up the rules a bit. In this case, I am not the host, I am the guest, and I've come in with questions, and Spencer, you are going to be answering them.
Great. I'm so excited.
Yeah, you're excited because I recommended a pretty good film this week, and that was The Prestige by Christopher Nolan.
Christopher Nolan, Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale, again, 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
But he's much older this time.
And much more involved. And we will be getting into spoilers for this one, as we do every episode, but for this particular film, I would recommend watching it on your own time and coming back, because this one is... you just have to experience it.
You gotta experience it. Like, I thought I knew the twist, but that wasn't even like, that was like one twist. That was like the twist, and then it goes further.
So it's on Amazon Prime and Hulu, and if you don't have either of those, rentable on Amazon.
Yeah.
So let's get into it.
But it's free on Hulu. I have the most cheap version of Hulu, and I was able to watch it.
Yep. So this film follows two magicians in their... a career-long quest to select each other and to get the one-ups on several different magic tricks in the mid to late 1800s London, with Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale, and of course Michael Caine's also in it because it's
Alfred.
a Christopher Nolan film. And this was, I think, not sure exactly when, but in the midst of the Nolan Batman trilogy.
Yes.
So
This was after the first one, but before the second one.
yes.
So it makes sense that at the end, Michael Caine's character here, the spoilers, is working, really giving the last laugh to Christian Bale's character because they were Alfred and Batman.
Yeah. There's a lot of funny things, and Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, so I guess play around with those ideas as you will. But if we want to jump into the questions right away, I'm going to ask you, so continuing on with our conversation on the first episode about the art of the twist. What did or did you not manage to predict whilst watching this film?
I managed to predict, let's see. Well, I'll add a little bit. What I already knew Christian Bale had a twin. I went in knowing, or actually no, I didn't know Christian Bale had a twin. I knew one of them had a twin, and as soon as Christian Bale did the disappearing man, I was like, all right, that's his twin.
That's a shame. Because that's a big one, but yeah.
But I was like, but when Hugh Jackman did the new disappearing man, and he showed up 50 yards away from the Tesla coil, I was like, wait a damn minute. I didn't know where that was. So when he, I think I got it probably when the audience is supposed to get it. When they do they re-show what we see in the beginning as a flashback, and he dunks in the tank, I'm like, oh, he makes clones of himself. What I didn't expect, though, was that he did like 60 of those. Like, there were a booty ton of tanks.
Yeah.
All with dead Hugh Jackmans. I didn't see that coming. I didn't see the fact that Christian Bale was hiding his twin as the chubby guy with the facial hair.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming.
I think they did the perfect amount of makeup on him to... I've seen many a reaction to this film after I watched it my first time around to kind of gauge how people reacted and sort of picked up on things, because I didn't really get any of it. I think I came up with every realization as the film was expecting. Like, I was starting to sort of catch on to... Like around the time where they were revealing everything about Hugh Jackman's trick, I was still grappling with the fact that this was a sci-fi film all of a sudden. Like,
yeah.
I still had thought it was like a regular period piece.
Me too.
And it's not. And I think that helps a long way in kind of throwing you for a loop.
Yeah.
You don't expect it not only to be sci-fi, but like an 1860s, 70s sci-fi.
Yeah.
Like Victorian sci-fi, which I think is really cool.
And David Bowie invented the Tesla coil. And he was like, they're all your hat. Well, he was doing an accent that wasn't British, which a lot of British people not doing British accents for a movie set in England. I know Hugh Jackman's not British, but he's American. Andy Serkis, American accent. David Bowie, Nikola Tesla was Serbian, so
Yeah.
Serbian accent.
Yeah, I think the pace at which we were talking in the first episode, because this is kind of a continuation about our talks with uh the usual suspects, the art
Yeah,
of the twist. Nobody, you can't just do one. And I think there were a lot of things in this film's favor for how it does the twists.
yeah,
But ultimately, it's not just one of those, oh yeah, it's a twist, what a twist. You really got me with that one. It's the whole film is the framing device of like, are you watching closely? This whole film is a magic trick.
yeah. It's
Movie
like Now You
magic.
See Me.
Yeah, exactly. And
I'll tell you a twist I didn't predict was him being Lord Cromwell or whatever the guy's name was.
yeah,
That just kind of, I think that one kind of came out of nowhere, where Christian Bale is like, and he was doing the British. He was like, I want my daughter. And then Hugh Jackman comes up and he's like, I have your daughter the whole time. I'm like, wait a minute.
but it makes sense because in his murder sequence at the beginning of the film, you think he's dead, but once you realize the nature of the trick, there has to be one. So what happened is the trick had to end because Christian Bale had exposed it. He had exposed that they were dropping in and drowning. So he couldn't continue the trick because the whole world assumed he was dead. So he takes on this sort of alternate personality, which you have to think he was probably planning ahead on. He probably knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so he sort of takes on this new persona because it's all about, well, it's not just about the dedication. Obviously, it's all about the dedication to the act. But
Yes.
it's also about, it's just the extreme pettiness of this rivalry. Like, he's like, yeah, you're already getting executed, but I'm also going to take your daughter.
Yeah.
It's like,
But little did he know that he was actually taking the daughter's uncle.
yes. And that's kind of, I think, the beauty of the ending is that for as much as Hugh Jackman's character had put into his trick, he still didn't see what was right in front of him. From the beginning, they were saying that the original transported man was just using a double. And he didn't want to believe it because it was too convincing. And it was, it's like with the old Chinese guy you see at the beginning.
The old Chinese guy.
The act
Based on a
is
real
his
guy.
frailty. Yeah. Oh, that's really
Based on a real guy, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really know much about it, but his whole act was he pretended to be an old Chinese guy for his entire life. And if you believe this, I was watching a YouTube video about The Prestige, and now my recommended feed is all about The Prestige and how it's the best movie ever. But the video I watched was like, and his last words were in English. He said, "Oh, I've been shot." I guess somebody shot him. If that's real, the Chinese part is real. Well, the Chinese part is fake. The being pretended to be Chinese is real, and then him is speaking English when he gets shot is up for debate.
Interesting.
Yes.
So all to say, it is the ultimate. It's the idea is a magic trick is a mental game.
Yes.
It's not just about
Who is the
leading
man in the box?
audiences. Yeah, it's not just about leading the audience's eyes away from where the trick is taking place. You have to make them suspend their disbelief, and I like the idea that Hugh Jackman kind of broke a cardinal rule by doing real magic.
Yeah.
And not just the fact that he was killing himself every single time he did it, but like everybody goes into these expecting tricks. And
Yeah.
then he just did the real thing.
He actually did magic, and everyone's like, "Oh wow!" But
Yeah.
that would be, how does he do it? How does he do it?
And yeah, so I just think there's a lot of layers to the twists. It's
Mhm.
like, this does not strike me as a, people make fun of Nolan now for always messing with the timeline,
Yeah.
liking to have films be told out of chronological order. He's had enough successes with the concept that I think it's fine.
Yeah.
But if there was any movie to prove its ability to shake you or to be like both thematically relevant to the story and also just really entertaining to discover, it's this movie.
Yeah.
I think this is the best he did it, but I haven't seen Memento, so I don't know yet.
I haven't either. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Next
Is it-
question.
Next question. All right. So about the period aspects of the film, being set where it's set and when
Yeah.
it's set, what did you find to be authentic about sort of the way the film's presented with the time period it was in?
The horse and buggy was definitely. I was like, all right, yeah, horses and carriages. I liked. I mean, they all looked like they were from that time. Um, I mean, let's address the elephant in the room. The gigantic Tesla coil that can clone and teleport. I was like, I don't think they had that
Yeah.
in the 1800s.
But kind of the reason I bring it up is bringing in the sci-fi aspects of the film. I think the thing I loved most about it was it wasn't a modern sci-fi. This is a period film, and it uses what people would have believed science fiction to be. It's like, you know, classic Frankenstein. You zap a dead body with electricity, and it can come back to life. Obviously, we know that's not really how it works.
Not.
But, I mean, unless you're, like, very recently deceased. But, you know, taking part of the sort of period aspect of the film that I like so much is that it decides to take a sci-fi concept that would have been relevant in its own time period and makes that the concept of the film.
Yeah, the transported man. Do you think Hugh Jackman? Who do you think was the real Hugh Jackman? Do you think the man that was dropped in the tank every night was him and he teleported a clone, or do you think he himself teleported and he drops a clone in the?
I think he died every night. He says in his final speech at the end when he's dying that he was brave because he didn't know if he was going to be the man drowning or if he was going to be the man coming out of the teleporter. But the ultimate reality is that he, you know, he was dying every single time. It's just that it's an instant transmission of everything, you know, thoughts, brain, all of it perfectly copied. And it's like, it's so ridiculous that you can suspend your disbelief for it because it's like, okay, this isn't based on, like, even Tesla didn't know that it was capable of doing that until he was noticing the hats. And he's like, this isn't working like how we thought it was. And if I'm going to be honest, you shouldn't use this. This is a really bad idea.
Yeah. I like the part where Alfred at the end, Michael Caine, not Alfred the character, but Michael Caine was like, oh yeah, I lied about the whole drowning thing. It actually sucks. And Hugh Jackman was like, I just drowned like 60 of myself. You couldn't have told me that sooner.
But that was the whole point. It's like he told him that lie initially because his wife had drowned and he was trying to comfort him.
Yeah.
But basically the idea that this sort of comforting lie, this sort of ignorance about the topic was what Hugh Jackman was using to justify what he was doing. He's like, well, he said that drowning was like going home. So really it's no big deal what I'm doing to myself.
Really, it's fine that I'm drowning myself every night. It's
and
fine.
when you look back at the scene where he dies at the beginning of the film, and seeing like,
I know, dude, that was crazy. I was like, what is going on? We just started this movie.
Yeah.
I was like, they're gonna kill off Hugh Jackman, and then Christian Bale gets his journal, and I'm like, all right, so we're gonna meet Hugh Jackman in flashback, and then Hugh Jackman starts reading Christian Bale's journal, and I'm like, wait, I'm like, what?
Yeah. I think it does take... I remember the first time I saw this film, it took me a little while to get the rhythm of the flashbacks. But I think that's every film that's paced like this.
Yeah.
You're meant to have to... You're trusted to do the mental gymnastics for a bit. But then when you catch on, it's very rewarding.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think what I liked most about all that was just like his face when he was drowning was like... He was surprised that it was that terrifying to drown.
Yeah.
And it's like every single time he did that trick, one of him goes through that realization. The other one is allowed to keep going with the lie.
Yeah.
And
nobody cares about the man in the box.
Exactly.
Man.
Okay, you're referencing something with that man in the box thing, and I don't think I've seen that movie. Is that Now You See Me?
That's this movie. They say that.
Oh, they say that now?
They say nobody cares about the man in the box because the whole thing is like, with the two guys doing the tricks. Hugh Jackman's whole thing is like, he's so mad that he has to be under the stage. He can't be there for the trick. So then he turns himself into the, he teleports himself to be the guy that comes out in the end. But in that, he doesn't care about the man in the box. So at the end, when Christian Bale burns down his whole thing, he's like, well, how did you get over the fact that one of you was never able to be the guy coming out on the other end. They're like, oh no, we just switched. Like, both of us just took turns.
Yeah.
And Hugh Jackman was like, oh.
But the deal is he had a bad double. He had one that couldn't be trusted. Like, you know, the thing with Christian Bale's
just
characters
like Hugh Jackman too.
Is he did because of, yeah. But I do like, I read this little detail about Hugh Jackman playing his own double, is that Hugh Jackman doesn't have earlobes. His ears just connect straight to his head.
Oh.
But for his double, they gave him prosthetic earlobes.
Oh, wow.
And like some other like things, like I think they kind of plumped him up a little bit.
Only Chris Nolan.
Yeah. No, the details are crazy. And also like the subtle differences. Like I remember when I first saw, you know, the other Christian Bale at the final scene where he shoots Hugh Jackman. And I thought there was just something a little off. His cheek was a little fatter. Like he had slightly different facial structure.
Yeah.
And they had done all these like subtle makeup things to try to make everybody different. So what I hope would be the fun with a rewatch would be that you can now go back and try to figure out which Christian Bale is which when you're watching the scene. When you're watching the movie over again. And I mean, that mixed with his two love lives was like, you know, it's...
Yeah. A lot of love in this movie. They have Hugh Jackman's wife, and then Christian Bale gets a wife that he has to share with his twin brother, and then Hugh Jackman gets Scarlett Johansson, and then Scarlett Johansson goes over to Christian Bale.
Yeah.
Dude, I'll be honest, I'm trying to work this in somehow, so I'll say it here. I couldn't be mad at Scarlett Johansson. No matter what she did, I was like, it's okay. I was like, it's okay.
To be fair, if I was caught up in that situation, probably my idea would just be to leave. Because, like, once I'm realizing that this other guy has got the two twin brother thing, which I would think two twin brothers secretly sharing a wife, I would be looking at that from the outside and thinking that's pretty messed up. Like, oh, yeah, you don't tell your wife you have a twin brother. Like, he's so dedicated to the trick.
You have to commit to the bit.
Exactly.
You have to commit to it.
Yeah, because, you know.
Because once they know the secret, nobody cares.
Yeah.
But I couldn't be mad at Scarlett Johansson. Like she'd be like, I'm a traitor, and I'm like, you're fine.
Yeah.
You're all right. I don't care. If I was like, I don't care.
If I was standing here right in front of you, I wouldn't care.
Yeah. If I was Hugh Jackman, I'd be like, you know what? I don't care. You're Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm sorry. And I'm Hugh Jackman. But his character would never apologize.
No, he wouldn't.
Teleports myself away and kills myself at the same time.
There was a film I watched in theaters just this weekend called Mickey 17.
Oh, yeah. I want to see that. That's the guy who made Parasite and
Yes.
the guy who was in Twilight.
And it's this is not a spoiler because it's the major concept of the film, is that there is a similar cloning technique thing where Mickey is a space colonist, expendable.
Yeah.
So he's supposed to die, and then he can be reprinted and die again and again and again for the sake of figuring out what is safe and not safe about this planet they're going to, or doing risky repair missions or something.
Yeah.
Now, I won't get too much into that, but I feel like in a lot of ways it was similar, but it dealt more with the cloning aspect about like how it might change who you are.
Yeah.
And what I didn't love that film as much as I thought I was going to. That's a conversation for another day, but I'll say as much. It did get the idea in my head about Hugh Jackman and like thinking, did he change like every time he did that?
Yeah.
Like was the man that that Christian Bale killed at the end even the one he was really after at the end of the day? You know, like, because the original had died a long time ago.
I honestly don't think so. Honestly, if you go back to it, the original character that Hugh Jackman plays could have died as early as the first time he tested the teleporter, because whether it's the first clone or whether it's him, the first time you use it, someone gets shot.
Yeah.
If that's the original Hugh Jackman coming out in the end, then he's dead there. And if the original Hugh Jackman is being the one who stays standing on the teleporter, he dies the first time the trick is ever done.
Yeah.
And I like to think he changed because every time he does it and he comes out alive on the end, he gets a little more arrogant. And he's like, oh, I can just keep doing this then.
Yeah.
And 60 Hugh Jackmans later, he's like, oh, I can't keep doing this.
And also, like, the fact that he kind of went into all this. It took him so long to even realize that Christian Bale didn't even have a machine with Tesla. Like, he had been working with Tesla for a while. And then he finally reads further enough into the notebook to read that, like, Tesla was just the key word. I've not even met the guy, and it has nothing to do with my trick.
Yeah.
And I'll never tell you the real reason. And I don't know. It's like it's like this movie is like the rule of two. Not the rule of three. It's the rule of two. Because you got the two twins, and then you got the doubling.
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman.
I will say, actually, I was thinking about this. The moment I realized this was a sci-fi movie, this movie was not realistic at all, was when the hat thing was revealed. Most people see that and they go, "Oh my, it's a cloning thing." I go, "Oh wait, this is totally fake because matter cannot be created nor destroyed." That was my first thought. Not even lying. My first thought was the most nerdy thing ever. I was like, "Well, this is fake because matter cannot be created nor destroyed. That's a rule of the universe. So unless these hats are synthesizing out of thin air, this movie is completely fake. Christopher Nolan, you have lost my patronage. I was invested up until this point, but because you broke a rule of physics, I cannot watch anymore."
I mean...
But then I was like, that's a stupid thought, and I watched the rest of the movie.
Well, yeah, because, like I said, this is not written to be a realistic 21st century sci-fi. This is a 19th century sci-fi.
Yeah.
And that's what I think. I know it was based on a book. I don't know when that book was written.
Me neither.
Could be modern, could not be. Honestly, I wouldn't be able to tell because I think the thing that was most... Because I guess we're still on the topic of the film as a period piece. I think the sort of meta aspect of the story being told as if it was in the era that it is set is what is so cool to me. I want to see more movies like that, more period pieces that feel like they're a part of the time they were made.
We watched one last week with Henry V.
Well, yeah.
That really felt like we were in England in the War of 100 Years.
Yeah, the War of 100 Years. And stuff that Robert Eggers is doing, like with The Witch and Nosferatu most recently in The Lighthouse. He's definitely super into historical authenticity.
Great. Good for him.
And I'm into that too. But it can mean a lot of different things. But I just thought this film was like a very unique example of that.
Yeah.
It's just a great screenplay. So my next question would be, what would be your thoughts? So because we're talking getting more into the meta and how you create films, what were your thoughts on the production value and the technical aspects of the filming that was taking place?
Very high regard and very high production value. I mean, just the fact that they can get, they can do all this prosthesis to make one guy able to, not only it's the prosthesis, but it's the camera tricks that they can employ to have two people or have one person play two people, whether it be Christian Bale in all that makeup or it's Hugh Jackman just getting new earlobes, but they have to like shoot it like. And at one point, I was really looking for this because every time I see a twin scene where it's one actor, I'm always looking for like, all right, where's the double? Can you see it's the double? There's one point where it's legitimately the camera is showing both Hugh Jackman and not Hugh Jackman, but I'm like, they both look like him. It was like kind of uncanny valley where I was like, all right, I know that that's not Hugh Jackman, but it like...
Uncanny valley is in it's fake, but you can't place your finger.
Yeah, like I was like, there's something wrong with that's not Hugh Jackman, but he was like kind of out of focus, and I was like, it doesn't look like his face. But the point was very high production value because they're able to do that where they're showing like both of their faces, and one of them was clearly not Hugh Jackman, but you couldn't tell. It was just super high. I really liked that, and of course all the crazy electronic the gigantic Tesla coil. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, this is crazy.
And that was also interesting because I agree with you. Like, there's two aspects to Uncanny Valley. One is like simply the knowledge of knowing it's not real.
Yeah.
And the other is there is something wrong with the effect that clues you into it being wrong, especially with CGI,
Yeah.
fake human beings. But here's the deal. I do not think it was digidouble. They did exist, but I'm thinking think about some of the digital double work they did in like The Lord of the Rings that wasn't as convincing, but they had to do it like really far away
Yeah.
to make sure you didn't notice. Or even back then, like they were still having people put on masks. Hagrid had a big actor, but to be his sort of stand-in for the wide shots, but they had like an animatronic rubber mask of the actor's face on this guy, so that not even for like the cameras, but I guess for the immersion of the actors. To me, that would terrify me.
Yeah.
But
It's like Five Nights at Freddy's.
yeah, except it's like
Except
it's like a mix between Five Nights at Freddy's and the pod people from Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
yes.
But all that to say, the fun thing is that this was still made in an era where how they did those effects is up in the air. Like nowadays, everything is, well, obviously they did a CGI.
Well, that's the prestige. They can't tell you how they did it.
Exactly. And I think just for the fact that there were a lot of shots in the film that did seem like magic tricks on screen.
Yeah.
And obviously because the whole double person is a big aspect of the film. I just thought that was really cool. So I this is not me coming in with some behind the scenes knowledge knowing how they did that.
Huh.
I don't know.
Me neither.
I don't think it was compositing. That would take a really long time.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. All I know is that it was cool, and I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah. I think that sums up that side of things.
I
So,
think so.
number 4 is, as is usual for Nolan, how do you think the non-linear storytelling elevated the story? We already talked about this a little bit.
We already talked about this a little bit. I will say to finish my thought on the whole journal thing, it was a bit confusing at first. Like, I feel like I would watch a journal, like he'd start reading a journal, and I'm like, all right, so this is before that, but then events would happen before that. I think once they stop telling you that it's in the journal and you just get to go along with the story, it's much easier to understand, and it is a lot better. Like, I'm a big, I have terrible reading comprehension. Here's the moment we talk about our English class. A lot of these stories don't take place in chronological order from what I've read, and I have a very hard time understanding that. But I ended this movie being like, I understood that, and it wasn't in chronological order. So I think it's really just aided when they don't draw attention to the fact that what you're seeing is a flashback of something, and that flashback is happening before another flashback. I think it's just once you see it and you're like, all right, Hugh Jackman is in Colorado to find Tesla. That story goes until the end, and now Christian Bale's character is in this place to do
jail. And then we're using the journal as a framing device to flash back to their days when they were partners.
Yes.
To then basically chronologically going from their early days to their time separated, their love lives.
Yeah.
The rivalry, sort of the fun and games section of what is it like to have two magicians who are rivals with each other, except one of them is getting revenge for his dead wife, so it's not really fun.
And they always go to each other's
shows.
Game.
Yes.
They always find the time to make it to one of these shows and ruin the act.
Yeah.
Instead of working on their own trick, instead of doing something better, they're like, no, I'm going to go to the show and I'm going to crush this innocent woman's fingers just to embarrass Hugh Jackman.
And that was crazy, too, because that trick with the bird that they were coming up with looked really cool.
Yeah. I was so ready to see that happen in real life and watch everyone excited, and then...
Yeah, ruined it.
But also, I feel like... I don't know. And they keep, escalating it, too. I mean, yes, this all started because you killed Hugh Jackman's wife, but you shot off Christian Bale's fingers.
Yeah.
He was already at a pretty bad show.
Too. It's like... Christian Bale keeps saying, I'm questioning myself about that. Like, which knot did you do for Hugh Jackman's wife when she, does the underwater thing?
Yeah.
And she dies.
Yeah.
It's one of them changed the knot. And it's like there's the one who was in love with Scarlett Johansson and who ended up in prison, who was like the more obsessive one. And then there was the one who, and I feel like you can kind of tell, who loves his actual wife and his daughter and who lives at the end. The one who ends up in prison is definitely the one who changed the knot, because he's always thinking of pushing the goal. And obviously both of them are unhealthily obsessed with magic to the point where they would consensually agree to do this double life thing.
Yeah.
But one of them is definitely more prone to risk.
Yeah, I'd say that.
And so it's interesting that in the flashbacks, or all the times that Hugh Jackman's trying to figure out which knot he did, it almost seems like he's always talking to the one who didn't do the knot.
Yeah, I got that too. Every time he'd be like, I don't know. I'm like, because you're not the one who tied it. Your twin tied it.
Yep.
But Hugh Jackman's like, what do you mean you don't know? And I'm like, it's right there.
And if we could go into the subtext of that, I think there's almost a fear more from the other Christian Bale to confront him on that issue, because I think he's human enough to have guilt for the fact that she died.
Yeah.
But I think there's a reason that, say, it would have been the nicer Christian Bale to show up to the funeral, and therefore he wouldn't have been the one to know which knot was done.
Also, I knew that was gonna go wrong immediately. Like I'm a great movie watcher because I heard the ominous music and I saw the close-ups and I was like, oh no, he tied the wrong knot.
Yeah.
They were just talking about him tying the wrong knot, and I was gonna tie the wrong knot, and I was like yelling I was like, no, don't drown the pretty lady, please, don't drown the pretty lady.
She got fridged.
I know, and also the fact that I feel like Michael Caine could have came with the axe a little sooner.
Yeah, and also like, he's an older guy, Why does he have to be the one doing axe duty? I feel like if Hugh Jackman was really the one seeing his wife drowning there, he'd have taken the axe and done it himself.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I'm just saying too. But yeah, that was really sad when she got fridged, and dude, I lost my train of thought. I'm just thinking about
a lot of pretty ladies get bodied in this film.
I know.
But I think the men, the Hugh Jackmans take the cake for the body count.
Yeah. Although that was pretty crazy though when Christian Bale was like, all right, well, since you're my twin and my fingers just got shot off, we're gonna have to take your fingers.
Yeah.
I don't know. If these guys, that's how I know these guys are crazy, because he was like, yeah, all right, sure, take my fingers.
Yeah, so like one of them is slightly nicer than the other, but they're both crazy.
They are both
That is
crazy.
the implication. But I do like that with the sort of retrospective viewing you have when watching this film, you can glean bits of their differing personalities.
Yeah.
Like, it always seems like one of them is just so much more an a-hole than the other, and the other one is like legitimately pensive and regretful for some of his actions. And
it sucks that the jerk was like always the one we'd see with the wife. Like he's like, I love Scarlett Johansson. I'm like, can you just send the guy who actually married his wife? Like, I feel like that should have been
like,
a
I
rule.
feel like they should have had like some kind of agreement, like, hey, on the nights we're gonna do it, maybe let it be me and not you. Like,
no, we have to commit to the bit. We have to. It's a specific calendar.
You don't think she'd be able to tell?
Well, that's the thing, is she can't tell. She's like, some days you mean it, some days you don't. And I'm like, yes, because they're twins. But she's like, now putting it together. And I'm like, no. I'm like, wait. Your marriage isn't like. And then she hangs herself. Yeah. I just remember the fact she hung herself. I'm like, dude.
Well, because she thought he was in prison.
I'm like, just wait an extra day. Just wait for the prestige.
Yep, but it didn't end up.
The audience is holding their breath.
And I feel like he might as well have. It made sense to a certain extent, because if the other Christian Bale exposed himself to try to go to his wife after the other was put into prison, then that would put them at risk for arrest, because then there would be a whole other like legal ramification for the fact that these two guys were both in on it, and then you'd be wondering which one was doing what, and it would be a whole can of worms. But It is very unfortunate, but that is the kind of thing. It's like Christian Bale is not the hero at the end of the story. He
No.
caused a lot of people pain for the same reasons. Even if he was the nicer one between the two, he was still in on this scheme,
Yeah.
all for the sake of a magic trick.
Yeah.
And that's what obsession does. It hurts people.
It does.
And I guess that's the lesson.
Destroy the machine, please. I'm David Bowie. Destroy the machine.
But come on, if you are able to create matter out of thin air, that would be pretty darn useful for, like, I don't know, solving world hunger.
Yeah. Well, it was the 1800s. People didn't know that the world was hungry.
Yeah, that's true. They were too busy being hungry themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting to the last question here.
Great.
What would you rate the film?
I gave it a 9 out of 10, which was a little higher than The Usual Suspects, which I gave it 8 out of 10. My overall score is 9 out of 10. I just feel like this might be like, I don't know if it does or doesn't justify. I feel like Christopher Nolan tacks on at least an extra point because it's Christopher Nolan, but I feel like he knows how to tell a story. I feel like the actors were very convincing. The fact that I knew a big twist and I was still like, wait a darn minute, how is this happening? That really says something. I also liked, as I was watching it, I got to make all these parallels. Like, it's funny that Michael Caine is working with Christian Bale to fake his death, and then they have a moment at the end where they do that thing to each other. And I'm not talking about The Dark Knight Rises. I'm talking about this movie. I just thought it was funny that there are all these parallels between, like, and also with Christopher Nolan, it's kind of like Tarantino, where it's like he has his stable of actors and he's like pulling them out and putting them in movies. And I just great cast. The only thing that could have made it better, was if Anne Hathaway showed up, because she is in The Dark Knight Rises. She's Catwoman.
Yeah.
And I'm a really big fan of Anne Hathaway. Like a really big.
So
fan.
you would have been even more forgiving if she was in.
If the lineup was Scarlett Johansson, Anne Hathaway, and whoever plays Hugh Jackman's hot wife, I don't know. I would honestly be like flip flopping. Like whoever they're with, I would be supporting. So when Scarlett Johansson leaves Hugh Jackman, I'd be like, nah, Hugh Jackman was a jerk. And then when Anne Hathaway dies, I'd be like, why would Christian Bale make her do that?
You could just choose any. It's like you're winning in the end. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But so I give it a 9 out of 10 because I feel like it was a very good story told by a very good director, and even someone who knows the twists or knew the big twist. I was like, I was still looking for the prestige. I was like, how does he do this?
Yeah. And I mean, you were never going to get the answer to like how the machine works. Yeah. And I like that is kept ambiguous because that is ultimately the biggest thing that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
As you say, it breaks the laws of physics. But a sci-fi writer in that time would not have cared very much about the laws of physics. Mm-hmm. I mean, some of like the more dedicated ones maybe, but it's not like every person who came up with some science fiction concept for like a carnival or circus or something was like really worrying about that.
Also, Einstein wasn't alive yet to like actually do physics and stuff.
Exactly.
So
it was a little more up in the air.
They really didn't know.
And that's another thing about like kind of the period aspect of the film that I really liked. I would rate this a 9.5.
Oh.
Not just because I'm the one who recommended it, but because even like comparing it to Oppenheimer, which I really liked.
Yeah.
This film just did something in my brain. It just like utterly captivated me. Where it's like Oppenheimer, it wasn't working up to a grand twist. It was just using the
well, you know what happens at the end of Oppenheimer.
Yes, I know what happens at the end of
there.
Oppenheimer. So that film uses the non-linearity of time to shed light on the motivations of the characters and keeping and kind of like having this sense of inevitability because it's a historical film based on a real person. So if you know anything about history, you know what's coming. So the film embraces that. But in this film's case, I think it's even more justified because I say this a lot. My number one thing I love about a film is it is well fleshed out. Everything links like a puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
Every aspect of the themes and the plot and the character motivations and what the camera chooses to point at is all meant to link to one idea
Yeah.
about a magic trick and
Yeah.
all of what comes with that. And the fact that the whole movie is one magic trick. And that is really awesome to me. I think I've not seen Now You See Me.
I've seen it on like hotel TV. Like I've never actually sat down and watched it, but I have caught all of it sporadically through the hotel TV channels that show random movies.
Okay. Well, I've not seen that movie. So for now, I'm saying that this is the best magic film
Yeah.
that's been made.
Honestly, I would say this is better than Now You See Me in terms of like storytelling and stuff, but I think Now You See Me is a better, like, it's in the 21st century, so it's a lot easier to digest because they're like cell phones and money. That's why we do this, and it's not like they're crazy magicians.
Yeah.
They're thieves before they're magicians. Now You See Me.
Yeah. But I like the Victorian aspect. I like the almost steampunk aspects of it as well.
Yeah.
The coiling, the technology.
Yeah.
It's just it's like all classic Halloween almost in a way.
Yeah.
I think the aesthetics and the idea that this was the dominant era of the magician is what makes it like the perfect quintessential magician movie.
Yeah.
And
I
so
agree.
I'd recommend it to anyone, as I did with you. And now
Yes.
I'll give you the ability to check it off your list because I had already seen it. So
Oh man. Okay. This is big. So we watched The Prestige, Christopher Nolan, Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale, Scarlett Johansson, and I can officially check this movie off my list.
bravo. I'm not going to clap right into the mic. That's
Yeah.
a bad idea.
I did it right though. I did all the
Yeah.
dude.
You know,
that
it's
was
all in the flick of the
Oh.
wrist, you know?
that was powerful.
Yeah, that was powerful.
That was so powerful. I felt it.
You felt the cheer of the audience.
Yeah.
That was the whole reason.
Dude,
you
I
did
think
it.
I'm obsessed with that now. I think I'm gonna I'm gonna show up in a disguise next week and pretend to be the guest, just so I can do that again.
So will you be sick, but then you'll be here as a disguised guest?
Yes. Well, you'll say, oh, well, we don't have Spencer, and you'll try to get someone else on, and then I'll show up as the guest, and I'll ruin the show, and I'll be like, I actually haven't seen this, so I'm checking it off my list now, in a mustache and a fake beard, or I guess I would have to put on a fake chin because I have a beard. But the point is,
Yeah. So that was this episode reviewing and looking at The Prestige, and it's been checked off my list. So put that on my list. I hope you go see the movie on your own time. If you listen to all this and you didn't see the movie, then I guess you just don't respect my wishes. So that wasn't nice.
yeah.
Well, go watch it anyways. So see you next time.
Thanks for watching.